All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power, and this is finally going to be my 2022 Mr. Olympia prediction video here at 3 weeks out. So the first thing I think we need to do in this video is go back over the competitor list, who's qualified, who's actually competing, who's showing up, and then go from there. And from there, I'm going to do my top 10 this time, starting with 10th all the way to 1st. So I'm going to do it in reverse. And I've got to say, this is the first time that I've made a prediction video that I've had to re-record like 3 or 4 times. That's why I didn't post it yesterday. Because like I've said before, this is really one of the deepest, if not the deepest, most competitive, anything could happen Olympias that I've seen in pretty much the entire time that I've had this channel. This is one of the best, most exciting lineups I think I've ever seen for the Olympia. Because we truly don't know what's going to happen. It's very hard to predict. I changed my predictions like 3 times. I can't settle on who I want where. So this is the final version. But I had a couple other different versions. But this is going to be the final one. So before we even get into it, make sure you comment down below your top 6 or top 10 predictions for this year's Olympia based on this list. You can pause the video here, look at the list, leave your comment before I give you mine so that my list doesn't influence yours, and I want to see how different or how similar your list is in the comment section below for your top 6 or top 10 predictions for the open class at the Olympia. And then at the end, you can leave a comment at how much you agree or disagree or love or hate my predictions. That's always fun as well. So, qualified for the 2022 Mr. Olympia. You've got Nick Walker. You've got Nathan Diasha, who I would assume it's safe to say at this point he is not doing it. So he's not going to be considered in these predictions. Big Romy Elsberry, Brandon Curry, Hottie Chupin, Hunter Labrada. Sean Clarita was qualified, but we know now that he's doing 212 and he will not be doing open, so he will not be considered in these predictions. Regan Grimes, we also know he's not doing it, even though he qualified, so he will also not be considered. Samson Dauda, Rafael Brandau, Angel Calderon Frias, Joel Thomas, William Bonak, Blessing Awodabu, Charles Griffin, Muhammad Shaban, Hassan Mustafa, Muhammad Al Snor, Vitor Boff, Andrea Presti, Ian Valliere, Antoine Vaillant, Akeem Williams, Andrew Jacked, Chinedu Andrew Obieka, Vladislav Sukaruchko, Derek Lunsford, Patrick Johnson, Tonio Burton, James Hollingshead, Michael Crizo, Leandro Perez, Theo Laguerre, Beirut Tabani. Then your top 3 in point standings are Justin Rodriguez, Andrea Musi, and Steve Kuklo. And Steve Kuklo, we also know, will not be competing despite qualifying on points. So that leaves you with 36 qualified competitors. You've got to subtract 4 from there. Sean Clarita, Regan Grimes, Nathan Diasha, and Steve Kuklo. 32 total competitors that should be competing in the 2022 Mr. Olympia. Very tough to pick a top 10 from this list. Now, to add a little context to these predictions, I thought it would be useful to give the full Olympia placings from last year next to this current qualified competitor list, so you can see where some of these guys wound up last year in a lineup that didn't have a lot of these new names. So Big Romy was the winner, obviously. Brandon Curry was runner-up. Hottie Chupin in 3rd. Hunter Labrada in 4th. Nick Walker in 5th. William Bonak in 6th. Ian Valliere in 7th. Justin Rodriguez 8th. Akeem Williams 9th. Muhammad Shaban in 10th. Rolly Winkler was at that Olympia. We will not be seeing him at this year's. He was in 11th. James Hollingshead 12th. Hassan Mustafa, we saw him in 13th. Patrick Moore, who will also not be here this year, 14th. Regan Grimes, who will not be here this year, 15th. And Andrea Presti in 16th. So without further ado, let's get into these predictions. 10th place. In 10th place, I have Ian Valliere. Right off the bat, a spicy prediction. I told you guys this was going to be fun. So Ian, for the past 2 years, has been 7th at the Olympia. He's a really good top 10 guy. He deserves to be top 10. He is a top 10 Olympian. He's got the mass. He's got the conditioning. He's got the balanced physique. And I think that is why he belongs in the top 10 still, even though this year I have him 3 placings behind where he was last year. Now, the justification for this, I feel like the lineup last year was a lot weaker and a lot more shallow than it is this year. I think 3 or 4 guys that are top 10 guys that I have in my top 10 this year that weren't even at the Olympia last year. And honestly, while I feel like Ian has improved, I don't think he's improved enough to move up and crack the top 6. And I feel like some of these guys that are going to be in the top 10 this year are better than Ian. So with all these new guys that I think are potentially going to be top 10, in my mind, Ian either moves up or moves back, and I think he moves back. He's tried to crack that top 6 for a while, and he hasn't been able to do it in less competitive lineups. So it doesn't make me think he's going to do it this year. So there's a prediction I'm sure some of you would disagree with right off the bat. In 9th place, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is here, because when Michael Crizo and Ian Valliere had their beef going back and forth, it was kind of a big debate who would place higher at the Olympia, Crizo or Ian. I think Crizo will place ahead of Ian. I think Crizo has the size advantage. I think he has a prettier structure. He's got a better stage presence. But I think the things that are still holding him back are conditioning and posing. Now, I'm sure people will actually find issue with me having him in 9th, because a lot of people probably have him placing higher in their predictions. But here's the reasoning. Michael Crizo has never competed against these guys before. These are the best bodybuilders in the world. This is not the IFBB Elite Pro. And at his first time ever at the Olympia, cracking the top 10 would be massive for him. And based on the Prague Pro appearance, the posing, the shaking while he posed, the sweating profusely, the heavy breathing, looking clearly exhausted during the comparisons on stage, I just can't say he's going to crack the top 6. However, I do think he has a world-class physique. He's a sight to be seen. He is what makes bodybuilding exciting. He's a massive guy with no gut, small waist, crazy round, crazy full. He's got gigantic arms, crazy wide, very dominant stage presence. Your eyes are drawn to him on stage. He's new, he's exciting, he's got a lot of hype. And I think if he improves from Prague, which I'm predicting he will, if he has better conditioning than Prague, that will be enough to give him a top 10 placing here. But he has to be better than Prague. If he's the same as Prague or worse in terms of conditioning, I don't think he'll be top 10. But I do think he will be better, and I think he will crack the top 10. And I see him landing in 9th place. Now, in 8th place, this is one that I went back and forth on a lot, and this is one that I changed a couple times when I made the initial videos. William Bonak in 8th, and I know this seems like a low placing for William Bonak. 6th place last year, but clearly, after we saw him at the Arnold Classic, after we saw him at the Boston Pro, clearly improved, clearly brought that trademark Bonak conditioning again. Leg injury fixed. Gyno surgery fixed. Theoretically, he should move up from 6th place last year, but I have some new guys placing ahead of him, and that's why I moved him to 8th. And this is the biggest one. I think this is kind of the one that I was the most back and forth on, and this is the one that I think is most likely that I could be wrong on, because I think he could place much higher than 8th, depending on how good he is. Because keep in mind, let's be honest, let's be real. He almost beat Brandon Curry at that Arnold Classic, and Brandon was the Olympia runner-up. So Bonak is one of the biggest ones where I feel like he's a true wild card, and he could really place anywhere in this top 10. He could be second. He could win the thing. He's beaten Romy before. He's beaten all these guys before, except for the new guys. So this is the placing I was the least confident about. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comment section below. Now in 7th, here's another controversial one I'm sure a lot of people will have something to say about. In 7th, I have Hunter Labrada. So Hunter Labrada was 4th at last year's Olympia. A lot of people felt like that was a controversial 4th place placing. I think Hunter is a phenomenal bodybuilder. He brings a lot of great things to that Olympia stage. His posing is fantastic, a great homage to his dad, Lee Labrada. But the more comments I've read, and the more I've rewatched the Olympia from last year, looked at more pictures, looked at more videos, I do think it was kind of a controversial placing. I honestly do. So I'm going to take a pretty big leap here and move him back 3 placings to 7th place, because I have new guys moving up. Which brings me to 6th place. The new member of the top 6 that I'm predicting this year, Andrew Jacked. I think Andrew will place ahead of Hunter. I think he'll place ahead of Crizo. I think he'll place ahead of Ian. I think he'll place ahead of Bonak. And the reason for that is his stage presence. He's so round. He's so full. Every muscle on his body, his abs, his shoulders, his chest, they pop. They're striated. He's tall. He's got a tiny waist, crazy width in his shoulders. His upper body is stupid wide. Your eyes are always drawn to Andrew Jacked whenever he competes. And he's so different. His physique is so different from all these other guys. I just think that he's going to make a massive impression at this year's Olympia. And some people might not even like me having him top 6 because they think he should be higher. But I just have this feeling that he's going to make a huge statement at the Olympia and he's going to crack the top 6. But I think the thing that's going to hold him back from those really cream of the crop top 3, top 4 placings is his back. I still have yet to see him come in really peeled from the back. From the front, he is amazing. Hands down from the front, he could be top 3. But bodybuilding shows are judged from the back as well, and I think it's his back that's holding him back a little bit. And until we see him fully shredded and conditioned from the back, I can't, in good faith, predict that he's going to be a top 3 guy. So let's get a little bit deeper into this top 6, shall we? 5th place. In 5th place, I have Derek Lunsford. This will be Derek's first ever Open Olympia. He's the only other Mr. Olympia champion that's competing against Big Romy besides Brandon Curry. Derek won last year's 212 Mr. Olympia. The reason why I have Derek cracking the top 6 and making 5th place is because he has everything. He has total balance, a very balanced physique. He's aesthetic. He's got a tiny waist, vacuum pose, no gut in sight, super wide back, super good legs, brought up dramatically. Beautifully aesthetic physique. He's like a Brandon Curry in that way. But he's also got size. He's got pedigree. He's got the pedigree of being the 212 Olympia champion and beating every other type of physique in 212. So you know that his structure is good. You know that his physique is world class. In that guest posing in Pittsburgh against Nick Walker, Brandon Curry, and Hunter Labrada, he did not look small. In fact, you can make the argument I think he looked as big as Hunter and Nick, and maybe even bigger than Brandon. I think Derek is going to come in and make a huge statement at this Olympia. I see no reason why he won't be able to come in and crack the top 6. With his conditioning that his coach Hottie Chupin brings him in, with his shape, his symmetry, the size that he has, he was like 260 pounds at the Pittsburgh Pro guest posing. He'll probably be, I would say, in the 230s at this show. He doesn't look like a 212 guy. He's big. He's wide. He probably has one of the best backs in this lineup. However, I don't think he's quite big enough to beat the guy that I have in 4th. In 4th place, I think Nick Walker moves up this year. I think he stays in that conversation, doesn't let these new guys push past him. I think he is better than Crizo. I think he is better than Andrew Jack. And I think he's going to outsize Derek. Even with Derek's aesthetics and conditioning, I think Nick is going to be in shape. And he's going to be big. He's going to be freaky. And I don't think he's going to be able to get past that. So Nick Walker in 4th place moving up from 5th. I'm sure a lot of you guys will be excited about that I have Nick Walker moving up. A lot of you guys I know have Nick Walker in your top 3. So let's get to 3rd place. Another controversial one. In 3rd place, I have Brandon Curry. And I hate to make this prediction because I love Brandon. He's a great guy. He's one of my favorite Olympia champions. But I've got to be honest. I think that the Arnold Classic kind of exposed Brandon a little bit. He clearly was not at his best. William Bonak almost beat him. He went from runner-up at the Olympia the prior year to almost being beaten by the 6th place guy at the Olympia. I think Brandon's conditioning has been faltering a bit, and I think we've seen that. And a lot of you guys might make the argument that Nick could beat Brandon, and I think eventually he probably will. But right now, I think with Brandon being the only other Men's Open Olympia winner in this lineup, I don't see them knocking him back a couple of placings behind 4th place. I think if they drop him to 3rd, that will be pretty dramatic. After the Arnold Classic, I just got kind of a bad feeling about how Brandon looked, and I just have a feeling that it's not going to be enough this year to really gun for Big Romy. But we'll find out. I could be wrong. But the guy that I have in 2nd place is Hottie Chupin. Because Hottie Chupin, I don't think has gotten his fair shake yet at the Olympia. I think Hottie Chupin could have won the past 3 Olympias based on conditioning, size, and symmetry. Now, I know a lot of you guys don't like the shoulders. You don't like the oil or alleged oil. But Hottie is a bodybuilder's bodybuilder. He's grainy. He's dense. He's packed with muscle for a guy with such a small frame. And he's consistent. He is conditioned to the bone every time we see him on stage. He's more muscular than Brandon. He's not as pretty to look at as Brandon. But he's more muscular. He's more conditioned. I do think that the past 2 years that Brandon beat him, Hottie was more conditioned and more muscular than Brandon. So my prediction is kind of a hopeful one that Hottie Chupin gets a fair shake and that he gets a fair comparison, and we get a one-on-one top 2 with Hottie versus Romy. Because Hottie really hasn't gotten that yet, and I feel like he really does deserve it. I think Hottie could have been Mr. Olympia at any of the past 3. But that brings me to my number 1 placing. First place. It should come as no surprise. The freak of all freaks and the mass monster to end all mass monsters. Mamdoa Big Romy Elsberry. I think he's going to be 3-time champ, and I'm thinking about betting like $10,000 on it. Based on everything we've seen, the conditioning, the size, the detail, I think this will be the best Big Romy that we've ever seen. He's more confident than ever. He's been posting more than ever, even though recently you guys might notice he shut it down. He hasn't posted anything in recent weeks, and he probably won't until the week of the Olympia. I don't think that if Romy is on, he can be beaten. But I do think he has to be better than last year, and I think he will be, and that's why I think he's going to win. But last year, I think the door was open a little bit. I don't think Romy nailed it 100%, and he had some reasons. He said that he had some personal issues he was going through. He didn't train for the better part of a year. He didn't prep as long as he usually does. These sort of things. This year, he's been training year-round, prepping year-round, essentially, and he is coming. And I don't think he can be stopped. So those are my top 10 Olympia predictions for 2022. Let me know in the comments section below your Olympia predictions and how right or how wrong you think I am. I love to read those comments. Remember, guys, this is what makes bodybuilding exciting. This is what makes the Olympia so exciting, is these predictions and people rooting for their favorite guys. And then those predictions being wrong makes it even more exciting, or being right makes it even more exciting. But I truly think that it's impossible to predict these top 10 at this Olympia. I think it's virtually impossible. This is truly an Olympia where I think anything could happen, and it is, to me, the most exciting we've had in years, and I love that. And if anybody in the comments does accurately predict the entire top 10, every single placing in the comments of this video, I'll send you a shirt or something. I'll pick one and pin it. If someone does predict the entire top 10, because I think it's virtually impossible. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. The Olympia is coming up. You don't want to miss any of that coverage. And as always, I love you guys. I appreciate the hell out of you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.